Next president of the United States inherits World War III. Whether or not it's Hillary Clinton, Benghazi Gate lying whore who was giving her testimony on Thursday, who really doesn't give a damn about the individuals that died at Benghazi Gate, the illegal gun trafficking through Benghazi, the NATO-led insurgency and assassination right out in the open of Muammar Gaddafi. I mean, pretty much everything that happens in the Middle East, Hillary Clinton has been responsible for. Hillary. But the next president, whether or not it's Hillary Clinton or it's Donald Trump with his hairpiece blowing in the wind, will inherit the next world war. Because the Middle East, as Trump put, I think, quite eloquently over the weekend, is far worse off today than it was prior to the invasions, the illegal attacks of countries like Iraq and Afghanistan. The Middle East would truly be better off with Saddam Hussein in power, a dictator, nobody's saying he's a good guy, and would certainly be better off also coupled with Muammar Gaddafi. Because the Middle East is now, honestly, hell's pit. Our own government tells us this bullshit on a daily basis, with ISIS cutting people's heads off, these barbarians raping women, children, and basically burning villages to the ground. It's an absolute cesspool and a sewer pit as a result of U.S. and Western-led actions. These illegal invasions based on false and faulty intelligence, which really wasn't false in the first place. Of course, our leadership knew that the intelligence was false, but they sold us a lie through the bullshit mainstream media to air these campaigns for various reasons. Even former Prime Minister Tony Blair apologized over the weekend and said he's sorry for basically the erroneous wars in places like Iraq and Afghanistan. There was also an earthquake not too long ago over the weekend. I think it just happened last night in Afghanistan, killing dozens of people in parts of Asia, as if Americans even give a shit about that. I mean, hasn't Afghanistan been demonized enough? Do you think Americans, latte-drinking fat-ass Americans, really give a shit about Afghani citizens when we've been taught through the mainstream media bullshit propaganda lying machine that these people are evil? I mean, we're sold that these people aren't even human. They're demonized to us. They are dehumanized to us. Again, we saw this during World War II with Japanese Americans before our government illegally sent them to internment camps. I mean, see, that's how the U.S. government treats you. That's how they treat our veterans. Those of you that fought in Vietnam, those of you that fought in Iraq, those of you that fought in Afghanistan. They whip out their dick and they piss right over your faces. You know, people ask me why we launched a new on-demand service, AMTV On Demand, which gets all of our exclusive videos before they hit YouTube. Also additional content, completely ad commercial-free, uncensored, unfiltered. It's because I can barely air my grievances on camera anymore. I can barely mention Obama and gun control in the same sentence without it being censored. So please tune in to us. Thank you for all your support, the tremendous amount of support we've had already. Those of you that have subscribed on demand, go to amtvmedia.com, get all of our content for $4.95 a month, $49.95 a year, and help us grow. Help me, help us, help AMTV get in front of the faces of these politicians. I don't care if you're the President of the United States or anybody else. We are by, for, and funded by the American people and the people around the world that are demanding real alternative media. It's amazing to see how we've grown over the last 5 years. It's amazing to see what we've done over the years. Our interviews with people like John McCain, catching him with bold-faced lies, telling us that Russia wouldn't act in Syria, and then watching them light up the Middle East as we predicted. Because again, our politicians, folks, are lying scumbags, whether or not they're Republicans or Democrats. None of their sons or daughters, none of Obama's daughters are fighting on the front lines in the Middle East battling ISIS right now. Only you are. Only the little guy. Only the poverty-stricken getting their legs and arms blown off. But who's speaking up for you? Who's rising up against this system? You see, the next president of the United States, unfortunately, and I don't want this to happen, I don't want war, I fear it. It's one of the reasons why I started this channel 5 years ago. The next president, unfortunately, will inherit the greatest war this country has ever seen. The Middle East is far worse off now, just like Trump said over the weekend, than it was before Muammar Gaddafi and leaders like Saddam Hussein were illegally assassinated and killed. I mean, it is an absolute jungle in this part of the world now. But again, this was a part of the campaign. This was a part of Tony Blair in the West and George W. Bush's destabilization effort from the get-go, from the very beginning. Go after that black gold, folks. Go after that blood money. An absolute catastrophe. Also over the weekend at an Oklahoma State game, I believe it was, some lady who wasn't even drinking, probably out of her own mental state, out of her mind, drove into a crowd and killed many individuals, including children, and injured others, people just flying up in the crowd. I mean, just absolutely terrifying. And I had a text from a friend who texted me right away pretty much when it happened. He says, ban cars. Ban cars, Christopher. Yeah, let's ban cars. Cars are killing people. You know, the same argument that Obama makes with gun control. You notice how they even spun that term now? The new spin job on it. This was from O'Malley at the Democratic debate that we saw a week or two ago. He calls it, what was it? Not gun control, but gun safety. Gun safety. See how they spin all this stuff now? You know, there is no difference between the right and left paradigm. Republicans and Democrats, they're all working for the same people. They're all working for the corporate interests that really run, not just run, but own America. Even outliers, supposed outliers like Bernie Sanders outright endorsing Hillary Rodham Benghazi Gate whore Whitewater Clinton. Whose husband, by the way, is a sexual predator, committed a felony on the stand lying to the American people about having sexual relations with Monica Lewinsky, and has countless other women having accused him of rape in the past. And this is the same bitch that lauds her whole campaign as some kind of feminist, some pro-woman chick who has a husband who's a friggin' sexual predator that can't keep his dick out of these bitches. I mean, it's absolutely amazing to me. This is the world that we live in. This is the disgusting shit show that makes up America today. War, death, murder, crime, lies, all backed and propelled by the mainstream media bullshit machine. Which is exactly why you need to support the underground. You need to support truly unfiltered, uncensored, hard-hitting news. So we are entering this very dangerous time in history, very dangerous time in the Middle East, where we have this geopolitical chess game occurring. Again, there's a reason that China, the People's Bank of China, just lowered their key benchmark interest rate, I believe, for the 5th time. Just over the last 24 hours. They also lowered the reserve requirement. But they were careful to note this little notation that what they're doing is far different. This is normal, far different than the shenanigans and policies being instituted by the criminal, privately run Federal Reserve here in the United States through quantitative easing and 0% interest rates into infinity. I mean, what they're doing is normal. What we're doing here is insane at the criminally, privately run Federal Reserve, which is owned by private banks, in the mirror image over at the ECB in Europe. Again, all these geopolitical and economic shifts occurring for a reason. Because again, as we approach the election in 2016, we know there is no difference between Republican or Democrat. The same reason Joe Biden came on camera, even though we knew this was predictable, he wasn't going to run. Number one, he can't win. And number two, the establishment has already selected Hillary Rodham Benghazi Gate line horse scum of the earth Clinton. She's already been selected. That's why there was only 5 candidates at the debate, because she's already been selected by corporate interests. Comparatively, 10 candidates at the GOP debate. So as Americans, we need to understand that the Great War is upon us, that the next president of the United States will preside over that. Who's the right person for that job? Who has the composure, the intellect, who's aggressive enough? Who should preside over that? You know, I view Donald Trump, although he's a part of the corporate establishment in terms of his corporate interests and him being a billionaire, etc., even though he's very low level compared to, you know, the multi-trillionaire banksters, he's still an outsider in regards to the political establishment here in America. Behind closed doors, the people that I know that are, you know, in behind the curtain in the smoking rooms do not want Donald Trump as the next president of the United States. They would much prefer their selection in the name of Hillary Rodham Clinton. And even Ben Carson would be better off. A physician who Trump says lacks energy, but I actually think has some pretty good composure about him, which might be something that we need in this country. Very dangerous time. Trump is right. I don't even think it's an argument. I just think it's the truth. The Middle East would be far better off if the United States hadn't invaded in the first place. Of course, the U.S. knew that they were selling Americans on fear, the lie of faulty intelligence, to usher in the invasions of places like Iraq and Afghanistan, because this is the agenda.